Well, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos, so I am very excited to get back to it, and I'm bringing another episode of The Forge. I want to talk about a potential ability word that I think would be really interesting to add to the game, or at least a mechanic, without fully revealing it. I'll lead in with, I really enjoy the things that make Legends unique as a game, and those things are essentially like lanes, lane special effects, and then runes, and, you know, as a subset of runes prophecy. So for me, I like to think about different ways that we can utilize runes in the game. Like, runes are essentially a resource. They should be managed as such, and you need to play around your opponents, and sometimes the right play is to like pray for your own prophecy. And in a discussion I was having with Justin Larson, I kind of had this idea of the reverse Nord, if you will. So Nords kind of have this unspoken ability that there's a series of them, and it's not an ability word right now, but there's a series of them that do something when a rune is broken, right? So you think of like Dawnstar Healer, Halfinger Marauder, Relentless Raider. You break your opponent's rune and you get an effect, right? And I kind of posed the question about what it would look like if you had the reverse, right? So your own runes get broken. Managing your own runes as a resource, playing cards that might deter your opponent from breaking runes right away, giving you an incentive to break your own runes, things like that. So without further ado, we're going to take a look at an ability word that I would like to add, and that word is Enrage, and what it might look like on some basic cards. So the cards that I'm going to look at today are some pretty basic examples of how I imagine the Enrage keyword would work. But you can't pose an ability word and then not at least show something, right? So right out of the gate, let's take a look at like a common card that would have Enrage. This is Orc Berserker. This is a 2-drop in strength. It's a 1/4, so its stats are on par with other 2-drops. There are even other 1/4 orcs, but this one has Enrage, gain +2/+0, and Breakthrough. So again, I kind of like the idea of you know, it's berserking, right? Like, it gets angry when you get hit. It goes into a fury and starts being more and more aggressive. So it's a little bit different for strength in that it doesn't have like a high attack power right out of the gate. It's probably not even very good because it's not aggressive enough, but it gets aggressive as you take hits. But again, it's, for me in this instance, more about the theme than like just creating cards that are good. Like, this would fit a theme for me of something that gets stronger. Now you could flip this, you could make it like a 4/1 with Enrage or something silly, but I just like the idea of something that was, you know, a little bit hardy in the early game, and that you know, if your opponent tries to not attack this but attack your face, then they're giving you value, right? So in many ways this is like a 1/4 that has pseudo guard, because they're going to want to deal with this before they break any of your runes. Let's go ahead and take a look at another potential example. So this is Defender of the Hist. Again, this is pretty standard fare. This is a 3/3 for 3. The Enrage on this is that it gets +0/+2 in guard. So you play a 3/3 for 3, but if your opponent does not deal with it right away, if they hit you in the face, then hooray, you get a 3/5 guard. Now it is worth noting, both with the previous card, this one, and other cards, that in my mind, Enrage actually triggers every time one of your runes is broken. So he doesn't get like double guard, but if you play this guy and your opponent just decides to swing and crack 2 runes, right? Maybe you're at 26 and they hit you with that buffed Mighty Ally, then he would turn into a 3/7 guard. So the Enrage mechanic would, again, kind of, hopefully anyway, deter aggressive strategies against you. But I would also like to say that I would envision you know, cards or playstyles that would promote you breaking your own runes. So we already see that in a way with Prophecy Battle Mage. They run things like Afflicted Elite. They run, in some cases, the Gladiator Arena. I would like to see more cards like that, more cards that use your own health and your own runes as a resource. So while most of the cards that I'm showing today are like almost defensive in my mind, I would like to see another strategy that's based on them being aggressive or offensive. I actually think I would prefer this to say like straight Prophecy Battle Mage, because then it's not like huge free tempo swings, right? It can feel bad if your opponent plays Afflicted Elite and then gets like Fate Weaver, um, you know, Orc Ravager or whatever. So if you play a card and your opponent's potentially going to hurt themselves, break their own rune, at least you can see the card and say, okay, I know that they're going to get X value from it. Not, oh, they're going to flood the board and I lose. So I do like this mechanic in terms of like promoting that self-harm. I'm not showcasing any self-harm cards today, but I just wanted to mention that I could entirely see that as a playstyle working with Enrage. The last one that I wanted to showcase is Enchanter of Eleanor. This is a 4/4 for 4. I put this one at the legendary slot because I think the ability is very powerful. In many ways, this almost reminds me of like a Quinral Burglar. It's 4/4 for 4, but the Enrage on it is +2/+2 and gain a random keyword. So this card I think would be very good in control, because you could play it, and if your opponent chooses to ignore it and hit face, you run the risk of, you know, giving them a 6/6 guard for 4. You run the risk of giving them like a 6/6 drain that would be able to swing the next turn. It could be a 6/6 ward that starts giving them like free value trades. Also note, again, in my mind, this triggers per rune broken. So again, that scenario where like I play this and my opponent gives me 2 runes, right? They break 2 runes. This could turn into the 8/8 drain. So that's the reason I put this at the legendary rarity, because in my mind it's very similar to a Quinral Burglar in the potential swing it has on a game. But also I think that's why it's still balanced, because it is at its heart a 4/4 for 4, still dies to Lightning Bolt. My opponent can choose to remove it or trade with it before they break runes. So even unlike a Quinral Burglar, I think that the downsides are potentially even lower. Yeah, so these are just, again, like basic cards that I wanted to kind of show to showcase the idea, right? I like the idea of using runes as a resource. I would like to see this as an ability word and then cards used to interact with it. I can imagine a whole cycle of cards, just like the last time I proposed a ability word with ambush. I could see a theme developing out of this that would be really cool. Personally, I would even like to see the existing Nord ability standardized, right? And also ability worded. Like you could call that like Bloodlust or something, and just make it say like Bloodlust, and we know that's when you break your opponent's runes, do X. Mostly because it would clean up some of the text, and then you could also save room on the cards so that you could have interesting cards that have like Bloodlust and Enrage, right? Like every time a rune gets broken, something crazy happens. Yeah. Anyway, this was just an idea I had. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, is this something you would like to see? What kind of cards would you imagine having these abilities? It's been a while since I've done one of these, but these are one of my favorite videos that I do, so I'm happy to be back at it. As always, I love you all, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.